Welcome back to another Halo Flashpoint paint tutorial. This time around we have the Sangheili Mercenary, or as I like to call him, the Covenant Elite. We'll start with the black prime through the airbrush. That done, move over to a white zenithal. Priming complete, we move to our dark base tone, Pro Acryl Dark Gray Blue. We want to apply this to the underside of the model to establish our shadows and darkest tones first. That finished, we'll apply our highlight color, Pro Acryl Gray Blue. Please note Pro Acryl is my preferred paint range, and Army Paint are my preferred washes. Any paint line you prefer will work. Just choose comparable colors if you plan to follow this tutorial to the letter. Out of the airbrush booth and onto the paint desk, we'll begin with applying Army Painter Dark Blue Tone. I do slightly water this down, but if you prefer a deeper tone, as I find out later that I do, you can use this straight from the bottle. The Elite, unlike the Spartans, has a lot of flat surfaces across the model. You'll want to wick your brush off after applying the wash. Make sure you remove any excess from the flat panels to avoid any coffee stains or title marks. Here I decided that my highlight was a little too bright for my liking. I used my base dark gray since we've already shaded down the rest of the model with our blue tone, and I applied this as my mid-tone basically to the entire model. As a side note, I didn't take video of it, but when I painted the Pulse Carbine Elite, I didn't do this step and found that it didn't really matter. The rest of the work that we do to the model throughout this process really kind of evens it out and the color worked. So this step is a matter of personal preference. Now I'm lightening the dark gray blue with a mixture of gray blue and beginning to apply highlights to the model. As in our previous videos, it's best to keep these highlights to the side our light source is coming from. Our initial highlight in place, I'm going to pure gray blue for our second level highlight. After applying it to the forehead, I decided to feather it out a little bit. This is done simply by spreading the paint on the model using a clean, damp brush. While working the second level highlights, I decided I wanted to apply some scratching and chipping to make our Mercenary Elite look a little more rugged. To do this, you'll want a thin paint and a fine point on your brush. I'm using my number 1 brush for this. You're looking to apply just the thinnest of lines around the armor plates and areas where it would scrape against objects or absorb hits. This is an optional step if you prefer a more pristine look to your elites. Now I'm switching over to dark neutral gray. This will be used for the undersuit of the armor. I also apply this to the face areas inside the helmet. While you could paint this a lighter color, my model's details are not very crisp in the face, and I chose to go with the same dark tone as it really won't be visible from the tabletop, and I feel like it adds a level of menace to the elite. Next, using the same dark neutral gray, though thinned, I use my number 1 brush to apply the detailing around the rim of the helmet, as well as pick out some details across the elite's chest and legs. Still not satisfied with that helmet highlight, I am thinning down my mid-tone color to create a glaze in an effort to calm that highlight down. When glazing, you want your paint rather thin, and it's okay to wick some of the extra off onto your towel to reduce the amount of paint your brush is loaded with. This is one of the few times you'll want to unload some of that moisture from your brush. Glazing is a technique I still struggle with, and you can find far better tutorials on YouTube than this one if you'd like to know more about it. Now I'm adding some neutral gray to the palette. I'll mix this with my dark neutral gray to create a mid-highlight for the bodysuit. Like our previous highlights, it's best to keep this in the direction of your light source. I'll also use this mixture to apply the base tone for the plasma rifle's gray parts. Switching over to pure neutral gray, I'll apply my second level highlights to the bodysuit and the gray armor details. Next up, I use Ultramarine as the base tone for the plasma rifle. Going back to my mid-gray mixture, I pick out a few more spots in the plasma rifle. I go back and forth a few times here, trying to get the colors with the rifle in the correct places, based off of the reference art from the cards. Now I go back to pure neutral gray for some of the rifle's gray highlights. Using the gray-blue on my palette, I base the glowy bits of the rifle. I then mix ultramarine and gray-blue to create a highlight for the plasma rifle's casing. Now we switch to sky blue. We want to apply a thin glaze of this to the glowing areas of the plasma rifle, as well as begin suggesting some of that glow around the outer edges of the area and on the elite's hand. You'll be looking to do this in multiple thin coats until you build up your desired intensity. We're nearing the end, a layer of drab earth over the base. This base was done with Pro Acryl texture paste. I then placed small stones into the paste as it dried and sealed them in with a dab of thin superglue. I think it really bolsters the interest of the base of the model. After that drab earth is dried, a heavy dose of Army Painter Strong Tone. Then, you can take a rest in front of the fan. An optional step, I decided to use some thin sky blue to fill in some of the divots in the model that glow in the card art and in the game. Our wash dry, we apply a dry brush of our original drab earth, and be sure to work it up the bottom of the leg just to ground him into his base a little bit more. And now on to the Tufts, Army Painter Mountain and Scorched Earth in this case. Rim that base in the color of your choice. As always, I prefer black. And here he is, our finished elite. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would, please like, comment, and subscribe, as well as share this video with others that you think may find it entertaining or useful. Thanks for watching.